Germantown Municipal School District School Board meeting on January 30th. At this time, I call our meeting to order. Before we begin, those that want to be heard tonight, citizens, you can complete a card indicating your desire to address the Germantown Board of Education and give the completed card to our Executive Secretary seated up here at this front table. Comments must be constructive. The school board will not entertain any disrespectful comments regarding elected officials. And citizens will be allowed 3 minutes to speak. If we receive more, we may limit it to 2, but at this time it'll be 3 minutes. At this time, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence. Thank you. At this time, Suzanne Jones, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the approval of our agenda with 3 amendments. We'll be adding budget number 49 under 9B. We'll be adding 10E, resolution to disperse funds, and 10F, student discipline, under board action. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda with those amendments?
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Roll call.
Sanders?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Ms. Wolf?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion is passed. Next, we have recognition tonight of some students and teachers.
There's additional seating up front. I don't know why that barrier was placed there. So if anybody wanted to spread out or have additional seating, there's additional seating up here. First, did you know that GMSD has a thriving trap shooting program? We'd like to recognize some of their members this evening. Would the trap team members please come forward? Trap team, come on down. And Coach, you don't get a pass on this one either. You've got to come on down. One coach dubbed them as the Fab Five. Matt Mitchell, Jake Tipton, Owen Harden, Chandler Kuhn, and Zach Roberts went to the state championship this year as first-time competitors and won. Germantown Municipal Schools are proud of these state champions and cannot wait to see what great things are in store for them. Likewise, the district would also like to recognize Lauren Thomas, an 11th grade girl who had great accomplishments as an individual shooter. Lauren placed 3rd overall at the state championship in ladies varsity division and 22nd overall out of 559 varsity shooters and the varsity athletes, which includes men and women. At Nationals, she finished 275th out of 1,831, or top 15% of all varsity shooters and 23rd of all lady varsity shooters. Luke Murray, an HHS senior this year, finished 18th overall out of 559 varsity shooters. In varsity athlete at the state championship and at nationals, he finished 170th out of 1,831 shooters, or top 9%. Their coaches, Tommy Conable and Mark Mitchell, who are extremely proud of their athletes, would like us to read this announcement. This is a team with both men and women, an equalizing sport where no experience is necessary. So congratulations to all of them, and Luke also. So I'd like to call the name. James Tipton. Matt Mitchell. Owen Hart. Chandler Kuhn. Zach Roberts. Lauren Thomas. And Luke Murray. And once again, let's have a round of applause for the whole team. At this time, the Germantown Municipal School Board would like to recognize the chess team from Houston Middle School. Would the chess team please come on down? On December 15th, these 4 Houston Middle students traveled to the 2016 National Grand Chess Championship. This is their first year as a team, and the GMSD is delighted that they came home big winners, national co-champions, along with Dalton School from New York. Over 1,500 K-12 players from around the country competed at this national championship event. Our 6th grade team, consisting of Logan Wu, Sydney Kong, Manish Rangan, and Cole Stevenson, scored a total of 15.5, tied in points for first, recognized as national co-champions, and received the second-place trophy after the tiebreak. This is indeed a great achievement for our Houston Middle School, Germantown Municipal School District, as well as our city, as they were competing against some of the strongest schools in the country where chess is taught during the school day. Just this last weekend, Cole Steven and Manish Rangan competed in the regional qualifying tournament for Shelby County for the Tennessee State Scholastic Individual Chess Tournament, competing against other elementary students in schools with strong established chess programs, Grahamwood, Douglas, and Idlewood. Cole and Manish placed in the top 8 for the elementary division, 4th and 5th grade respectively, therefore advancing to the state tournament to be held on February 18th in Cookeville, Tennessee. In addition, Logan Wu has been recognized several times in the nation and in the world for his excellent chess playing skills. A 2-time national champion, he has traveled to Dubai and Greece to compete against some of the world's best players. You can catch our recent interview with Logan on our Spotlight for Excellence television show at www.gmtvonline.com. At this time, we'd like to recognize each of the individual players. Logan Wu. Cole Stevenson. Manish Rangan. And Sydney Kong. Once again, congratulations to our chess team. And finally, we'd like to recognize one of our staff. This month's Staff Recognitions of Excellence, Dr. Howell, will you please join us up here? Dr. Kristen Howell teaches English as a second language at Houston Middle School and has recently completed her EDD at the University of Memphis. Germantown Municipal Schools salutes her dedication to bettering her craft and achieving this level of postgraduate success. Congratulations. We all know how much time and effort it took to advance your degree. So with this, we'd like to recognize now Dr. Howell. We would also like to recognize Dr. Jolie Williams, Assistant Principal at Dogwood. She could not be here tonight, but she is another one of our educators who just completed her doctorate. So also congratulations to Dr. Jolie Williams.
At this time, I'd like to recognize a couple guests. We have Mayor Palazzolo and Patrick Lawton, our city administrator, and I believe Alderman John Barziza is here as well. Welcome. Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes from the 12/5/16 Board of Business meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Parker? Yes. Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Ms. Wolf?
Yes.
Ms. Landers?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion is passed. Next, we have a report from our TLN, our Tennessee Legislative Representative, Ms. Suzanne Jones.
This is my first report, so we'll get it started. Lisa Parker was nice enough to kick off a legislative breakfast for us on January the 4th, where we got all the municipalities, school board members, as well as our legislators together to talk about the agenda as they're coming into the 110th session. It was a very successful breakfast. It was the second one we've had. A lot of great movement came out of that. There's a lot of education items on the agenda over this next session that we need to be aware of. The ways that we are going to be, the time that has been spent in January was getting ourselves ready, getting ourselves in a position to be able to bring a voice to Nashville. Some of the things that we are doing is we have started talking about our legislative agenda, which we will bring back in the February work session to talk about which bills which are filed that we would like to support. We also have scheduled weekly calls with our municipalities, the other leaders within the boards for the legislation, just to talk about what's going on, where we need to focus our efforts. I will be having weekly calls with an analyst that's responsible for the Senate Education Committee, also scheduling a day trip to get up to Nashville to meet with our legislators before we go to Day on the Hill. What I'm finding is that really keeping the relationship, keeping the dialogue open about the items that are coming up is very important. Bills, the last day for bills to be filed will be February 9th. So as I stated, we will come back with a list of what those bills are that we feel like could really impact our district. The last couple of items are days on the Hill. It seems to be a theme. There's lots of them. The one that we're having is a TSBA Day on the Hill, which will be towards the middle of February 20th and 21st. We will go up. We will meet with other districts across the state, as well as with our individual legislators. We will also be having a GMSD Day on the Hill, which is tentatively scheduled for March 29th, where we will get some of our kids from GMSD up on the Hill in Nashville. So we're hopeful that we can really spend this time during the 110th legislative session focused on the key items of legislation related to education, as well as getting our relationships established to have a very strong voice from a municipal perspective.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Next is the chairman's report. I'd like to congratulate Lisa Parker, who has been selected to serve on the Tennessee School Board Association Legislative Committee. Thank you for your time for that, to serve TSBA, Ms. Parker. This past week, our superintendent, our chief financial officer, Kevin Jones, our board secretary, Vijaya Subbarami, and school board members Suzanne Jones, Betsy Landers, Lisa Parker, and myself attended the School Board Academy on on the board's role in school finance in Jackson. State law does require that all school board members attend annual training. So we all went to Jackson to learn more about our board's role in school finance. School board members last week visited Houston High and Riverdale to see how our one-to-one blended learning is being used in our classrooms. As a board and school district, we are now providing computers, laptops to our students, and we went into the classrooms to see how the one-to-one blended learning is working. I want to thank the teachers, Ms. Wallace, Algebra 1, Mr. Hamlet, World History, Mr. Robinson, Human Geography at Houston High School, as well as Ms. Young, 8th grade language, Ms. Ponder, 8th grade social studies, and Ms. Humble-Davies at Riverdale for welcoming us into their classrooms. We learned a lot from engaging with the students and the teachers. We also toured the nitty-gritty of the Riverdale construction with our city's aldermen last week. With access to all the building, I can say we are very impressed with this new facility and what's going to offer our students and our teachers and our parents. And we look forward to the opening of the school in the upcoming 2017-18 school year. I'd also like to thank Dr. Rayburn and the Houston High School Choir for their performance of Mass in Blue with Will Todd. He's a renowned jazz pianist, and he came in and worked with our Houston High School Choir for 2 days, and they put on a concert last week at GPAC. So I want to thank Dr. Rayburn and the choir students for their hard work. Next on the agenda is a financial report. Mr. Jones?
You have your financial reports as of and for the month ending December 31, 2016. Looking at the general purpose or school operating fund, right at $8 million in total assets and liabilities and fund balance. Federal projects, a little over $18,000 in total assets and liabilities and fund balance. The same amounts in the cafeteria fund of $147,000. Capital projects, $1.3 million. Health insurance, right at $1.8 million. And the OPEB trust, $1.2 million. And right at $61 million in our fixed asset or plant, property, and equipment account. The CIP, our construction in progress amount, has been updated to right at $6.4 million for the Riverdale project. On the statement of revenues and expenditures, we've added a month column so that you can now see what was received or spent for the month. Wanted to point out a couple things. In the health insurance fund, looking at medical claims to date at $1.8 million. We have about $250,000 due to that fund in reimbursement. So that brings it down to right at $1.5 million, or 50% of total budgeted. A couple comments in the cafeteria fund. Aramark did have an inventory adjustment to their cost of sales retroactively, so that increased our December billing by a little over $20,000. And there's a separate detailed explanation that's been provided to you. We transferred in a little over $70,000 for operating purposes, and the deficit reported year to date for Aramark is a little over $36,000, and currently that would be reimbursed to us. And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Next on the agenda is the superintendent's report.
One of the objectives for the board in our strategic plan is goal number one, to maximize student potential. One of the areas where we actually have data at this point, because we haven't had state testing yet, is in our STAR Early Literacy, which measures the grade levels that students are reading on in kindergarten and first grade. So what we do is we give each student a pretest before they ever walk through our doors to see how many of those students walking into kindergarten and first grade, for example, are already reading at their grade level. We have a very large number of students who read several grades above their grade level. This does not measure that, or we don't have that for this purpose. We're really measuring who is reading on or above grade level, and it can really show their growth during the school year. So we have our second set of data that we can share with the board and with the audience. And with that, I'll turn it over to our Director of Academic Advancement, Dr. Parks.
In October, we gave a strategic plan update on this same goal, and we looked at kindergarten, and the students reading on or above grade level at the October benchmark was at 13%. And so we are pleased to present to you that students at the winter benchmark assessment had moved up to 48.9% that are reading on or above grade level. And so that shows us a growth of 35.9%. And then for first grade, we are also showing a large growth number there. At the fall benchmark, we had 63% that were scoring on or above grade level in reading. And then the winter benchmark, we showed that 91.2%, so a growth of 28.3%. So we are very pleased with these results.
So just to clarify, we are making good progress and excited to see how the students are going to perform at the end of the year, but know that we are making tremendous growth with these students. And not only are they reading at or above their grade, they're reading far above their grade levels. So at the end of the year, we will show you how many of our students who in first grade, for example, are reading at third and fourth grade level. We'll show you some really good metrics for how these students are really progressing. And that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Superintendent Manuel. At this time, we'll have citizens to be heard. Again, comments must be constructive. The school board will not entertain any disrespectful comments regarding elected officials. Citizens will be allowed 3 minutes to speak, and we probably will have you stick to that because we have several people speaking tonight. First to come forward is Steve Wiggins.
And if we could use this first mic over here.
Hi, I'm Steve Wiggins, and I represent, among many of us here, the Yester Oaks neighborhood, and we're wearing red. You can lift your hands if you wish, I suppose. But and this is about the school, which is being proposed to be built on the Warwick property. And the reason why I'm coming is just to talk about the fact that my wife and I moved here 2 years ago from Los Angeles, and we spent a considerable amount of time looking through Germantown, looking for exactly the perfect neighborhood, and we feel like we found it here. We live on Sycamore Trail Drive, and so it was very concerning to us when we found that there was a school being proposed in the property literally right behind us. If there was a school closer to us, it would be a homeschool at that point. And not only that, but that there were going to be entrances to the school which would not be mainly used on Poplar Avenue, but would be coming literally right in front of our home and going and flanking our home. And it's very concerning to us. And I don't necessarily represent all of these people. A lot of us are going to speak, I suppose, but it's very important to us because we have a lot of children that are there. We have a very quiet neighborhood, and now it's going to open up our neighborhood in a way that we don't believe is advantageous to the overall well-being of the community that's living there. We have very close to us, on the same block, the Bodine School. Then, of course, we have the traffic which comes back and forth from St. George's. And then we have, there's another one that I can't remember. Dogwood Elementary, obviously, is right down the street. And so we're just calling to voice concern about that, and quite frankly, our opposition to that school being built there because of the way that it's going to disrupt our neighborhoods. And I know the school has to go somewhere, right? We understand that. But when we bought our homes, and we've even had people say to us, we think maybe it would help your property value if there was a school so close to your house. But we didn't buy our homes in order to sell them. We bought our homes in order to live there. We bought our homes in order to stay in these neighborhoods as long as we possibly can. And given the congestion of schools that are there, we have very high concern and quite frankly, great opposition to the idea of another school, seeing as how there's already 3 within a mile and 2 within 2 or 3 blocks already. And so those are our concerns, at least mine. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we continue, I might add, the students that were here to be recognized tonight, if you want to leave, you're more than welcome to leave at this time. You don't have to stay.
Was it something I said?
Next citizen to be heard is Jim Thanem.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak briefly to you about your plans for a new school. I can't argue plans for a new school, and I can't, and it's not here to tell you about, it's okay to have a new school. I fully support it, just not in my neighborhood. My concerns are for Johnson Park. It is a great venue. We're losing green space left and right. This is enjoyed by many people, and the people that enjoy it are like me, retired. I see my fellow geriatrics out there, and we're staying healthy with that park and becoming less of a burden if we continue to stay healthy. So I'm concerned about the fact that we would lose valuable park space that this city desperately needs. We're a confined city. We have to travel a lot other way for it. And this park offers a lot of people, bikers, hikers, people using the sports fields to their advantage. And I think it would be a mistake to do that. My second comment is about Johnson Road. Of course, I live right off on Johnson Road, and it is narrow. And we have more bike traffic than we have anything else, well, other than the fire department, traveling down that road. So if there was a consideration for a school in that area, it would have to go with a plan to expand that roadway in order to accommodate the traffic and prevent potential trouble with literally the bikers using Johnson Road as their traverse path north and south. So those are just my comments briefly. I thank you for the opportunity, and I hope that you can come to a decision in my favor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next to speak is William Wilson.
Good evening, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. I want to just touch on a couple of things. If I looked at the decision from the point of view of the board, it seems to me to be obvious as a board or a citizen of Germantown that given the rank of the Warlick property at third in public acceptance, it fell only 1 point better than Johnson Park. Its cost is equivalent to, if not a little more than, the Brower-Schaefer, and Brower-Schaefer ranked first. You yourself had mentioned the zoning headache that it might create, given that you have Farmington and Dogwood. The population lives south of Poplar is not really served well at this point. If Mr. Hobson would agree to your offer to sell you his schools, then you might be in a different position right now, and I understand that. But to offer a school that would be able to serve the growth potential and the existing families that are in the southern portion of the city seems to be the most prudent decision to make, given the land that you have to develop there, the ability to expand to a middle school as you anticipate needing to do in the future. The Warlick property, as Steve has mentioned, to me does not, and I live off of on Washington Way, which is 3 doors down from where the Warlick property is, and from my experience, knowing Bodine with just 72 students, morning and evening, the congestion that is created by just the one school with just 72 students. Adding a school at Warlick with all avenues opened, My Street, Washington Way, or Windy Oaks, or Sycamore Trail, with 700, or I'm not sure exactly the number of possible students would be at the new school. I can't fathom how many different ways that parents who are clever and want to avoid the line coming in off of Poplar, where there will be a extensive amount of time delay to get there. So they'll look for ways to get around it. Safety is a major concern for us as well, given that we don't have sidewalks and don't want to develop sidewalks. We bought our house the way it is. We like it the way it is. So we hope that you might consider avoiding the Warlick decision, but instead choosing something more like the Brower-Schaefer, because of its offering to have expansion in the future, its cost, its limited need for development. It's serving the southern side of Germantown, side of Poplar. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Tim Fulse.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you for serving on the school board. And we saw earlier, we are so blessed to have great schools, great support. Can't say enough good things about GMSD and our leaders. You may be aware that a residential neighborhood was planned, a gated community on the Warlick property just before the recession hit. The zoning commission met here. Not sure if it's the name of the commission, but we talked to them a bit about ingress and egress through Washington Way. Because it is a small street, small caliber street, can't be widened. There are no sidewalks. They basically decided that a gate could be put in for emergency access only by police and fire. So that precedent has been set. So really that takes away ingress and egress through Washington Way. That is set as precedent. So understand that is a shortcoming of this property. And I think that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is David Bard. Did I get that right? Byard.
First, I wanted to say thanks for the opportunity to speak. My number one concern for tonight is opposition to Johnson Road Park. You probably all received my email, and you know where I already stand on that. And I'd first like to ask anyone that opposes Johnson Road Park to raise their hand. Oppose, if you oppose Johnson Road Park. Secondly, schools got to be built somewhere. Contradictory to the last two speakers, I think the Warlick property makes the most sense if you have access from Poplar and you don't go through their neighborhoods. You know, on Poplar, everybody can get to quickly. One of the main issues, I think, is safety and accessibility. Johnson Road Park, traffic's a nightmare already. Forest Hill Irene is just as bad. If you've ever been on Forest Hill Irene at Poplar Pike at a red light in the morning time, it's already 20 to 30 cars deep. You know, 3 or 4 cars go, you sit there. With more school buses, more traffic, more parents, that would be worse, that situation. Secondly, you've got everybody going to school and to work through Germantown, Collierville people. Well, Collierville people, if they know there's a school on Poplar, they can take Winchester, they can take Poplar Pike, they can take Farmington, they can take Wolf River. There's a way around if you have the Warlick property and you have an interest on the front of Poplar only, not the back. Forest Hill Irene, the way around that, Houston Levy. If anybody's ever went down to Houston Levy in front of the Kroger, you already know that's not an option. Getting to Hacks Cross would be a nightmare. I think the safest location would be Warlick. The easiest accessibility would be the Warlick. And that's where everybody can make adjustments, a new way to work, a new way to school. It's centrally located. No matter where you live in Germantown, you can get there pretty quick. And if you have Poplar, it can be easily widened. You know, it would be safe for buses to come and go. You know, the 15 or 20 minutes people unload and go, you know, that 15 or 20 minutes, people could easily go other directions that time of the morning. And y'all do all a great job. Mr. Manuel does a great job, and thank you for the time to speak.
Thank you. Next is Elizabeth Simonian.
Good evening. I'm Elizabeth Simonian. My husband and I have owned our home on Windy Oaks since 1986. Our grown kids attended Dogwood School. I represent a huge majority of neighbors who surrounding the Warlick site who do not want to see a school built there. The only way out of our neighborhood from Brandomere all the way to Bracton is Dogwood Road, which is a major thoroughfare for us to get anywhere we want to go. And we're affected daily by traffic on this street from 4 schools. And if the Warlick site is chosen, all of our small schools south of Dogwood will experience an increase in traffic. I'm one of the ones who've sent you recent emails, and thank you for your responses. Some of those emails included pictures of the traffic, the lineup in front of Dogwood, all the way to Forest Hill Irene and Calkins, the lineup, Dogwood School that is, the lineup in front of St. George's, all the way to Kimbrough. In both of those schools, traffic does stop completely where the guard lets cars in and out. Then also, the private schools were left off the map that you all provided, but they do make a huge impact in our neighborhood. I mentioned St. George's, but Bodine is right around the corner from my house, and every day we experience the traffic lining up on Yester Oaks, and it curves around the corner onto Dogwood. So this small street, Yester Oaks, is the only entrance to the Bodine School, and it's also one of the major streets leading to the sub-streets for the Warlick property, assuming that shows it. So just to reiterate the closeness of all these schools, Farmington is 1.2 miles from Dogwood. Dogwood is 1.1 miles from St. George's. Bodine is 0.7 miles from Dogwood and 0.6 miles from St. George's. So it's all just too close together. And then if you add another school in the mix on the Warlick site, the entrance to the Bodine entrance on Yester Oaks is 0.3 miles from the Sycamore Trail substreet, 0.25 miles from the Windy Oaks substreet, and 0.2 miles from the Washington Way substreet. So that's just so much traffic going right into our streets if those substreets are used. Most of our neighbors believe that the Schaefer-Brower site would be the best choice for the new school. It seems that having a school south of Poplar would be more convenient for students living south of Poplar who currently travel north of Poplar to go to school. And I know Mr. Manuel provided me with a school zone map with the numbers of how many students live in each zone and who goes to what school. And you also explained to me that Dogwood and Farmington are experiencing the most growth, but I imagine a lot of this growth is due to the removal of Germantown School from the mix. So from looking at the numbers and the map, it just seems that the Schaefer-Brower site would better serve Germantown as a replacement. Also, I understand that Forest Hill Irene is to be widened with a school or without a school. And if the Schaefer-Brower site is chosen, I understand that there would be 2 entrances on Forest Hill Irene. So I drove to this site the other day just to look at it, and I drove back into that neighborhood, and it's very upscale homes with a lot of deep lots. But the main difference between their neighborhood and our neighborhood, well, forgetting the price of the homes or the size of the lots, is that their neighborhood would not experience any extra school traffic like our neighborhood would.
Your 3 minutes is up. Can you finish? Wrap it up?
Yes. So on behalf of my neighbors, I just ask that you consider the Schaefer-Brower site. Thank you.
Thank you. Rob Walters?
Hi, good evening. Thank you also for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Rob Walters. I'm a Germantown resident and live on Old Plantation Cove. I've been a city resident for over 30 years, and I'm here tonight, asking you to eliminate Johnson Road Park from any future consideration for a school site. To date, I have participated in many of the processes leading up to this point. The January 5th public information session, the January 17th Board of Education work session. I've reviewed all the information that the district has posted online. I've completed feedback forms and the survey, and I've continued to be consistent in my perspective. Johnson Road Park is a gem in our city. We all know that it's used very frequently by city residents and others in our community. The disc golf courses, the athletic fields, the walking trails, the lakes, the sports fields all encourage a healthy lifestyle, which is extremely important in our community these days. Taking this land away would eliminate that opportunity for many people that use it. Many residents that live adjacent and around to the park purchased their homes knowing that a permanent city facility was here. They did not purchase homes around undeveloped property. After the professional and objective analysis that all of y'all have heard and you've shared with the community, the engineers, the city officials realize that there are more suitable sites than Johnson Road Park, taking into consideration the topography, the land prep size, the size of the site, allowing for future expansion. Many of y'all have shared with me in feedback to emails that this is a 50-year decision for the school board and the city. I ask that you not be short-sighted in looking at a Johnson Road Park as an smaller size, presenting less expansion opportunities for the city and the school board. After that, in reviewing the information, I believe that the sites south on Forest Hill present better opportunities. Based on the growth projections that Superintendent has shared, the undeveloped properties in that area present the largest opportunity for residential growth in the city. And I believe that is warranted to take into account longer-term growth of this, or aspect of this decision. So please don't be short-sighted in taking that consideration. I ask that you continue to work with the city and do what's best, not only for the students, but for our city residents long-term. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Jimmy Wetter.
Hi. First of all, I'd like to thank the board for all of their hard work, and I know this is a tough decision, but y'all will make a good decision, whatever it may be. I have concern about Johnson Road Park because of many reasons, but I've taken some of these off of the matrix and off of your website. There's concerns with the deep ponds that are unsafe. There's a cell phone tower present. There are 10 wells that are on the property that will need to be serviced. Not only will the cell phone tower need to have a workman present to work on it and come through school property to get there. It directly touches 3 neighborhoods, the Highlands, Devonshire, and Old Plantation Way, but there's no direct access, only through private property, so only the homes that are contiguous to the proposed school site would there be access for children. Another problem would be that Johnson Road would have to be improved because of the traffic situation. I don't believe that that cost has been factored into your cost matrix when you considered the site. Not only the construction, but also the buying the property from landowners, and we don't know how far down Johnson Road would need to be widened because it is a big road. Secondly, just the size of the property. Only 20 usable acres for a school site, whereas the Breyer-Schaefer property has 38, I believe. The Reeves property close to 30, and the Warlick property is approximately 30 acres. 20 acres would not be ample, in my opinion, for athletic fields and a school site and parking. It would be crowded, and the other 3 sites would be better. Many trees would have to be torn down. There are probably 8 to 10 acres of nice oaks that would have to come down, and we don't need to lose not only park space but trees in our city. The only other thing I'd like to mention would be just how much better the Reeves and or Breyer Schaefer site would be because of less cost of site work and the size of the property and room for expansion on those sites. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Zachary Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I've come to speak in favor of the Warlick property. You've heard from a small but localized group opposing the Warlick and Johnson Road properties, but interestingly, there's been no one speaking really directly in favor of the Forest Hill Irene properties. Yes, there are a number of people that, yes, it's south of Poplar and I'm north of Poplar, but those properties really have nothing to offer to the students that are going there. If you recall a few months ago, a lot of these same people were in the room speaking against the Winchester location because it is not a neighborhood school. The Warlick location is the only location under consideration right now that is a neighborhood school. These Forest Hill Irene properties, they are contiguous to some neighborhoods, but these are neighborhoods that are very sparsely populated with acre-plus lots. The Warlick location, this is a reasonably dense neighborhood. There are a number of students, a large number of students, that can walk or bike to this school, and that's critically important to the health of our students and to a neighborhood feeling for our school, which we all felt so passionately about months ago, but are now turning our back on. Additionally, I think it's cost effective because it's centrally located. It means the least bus miles driven, which is important because the cost of oil is sure to exponentially increase over the life of the school, and that will be important from a taxpayer perspective. In conclusion, I ask you all to remember the way that the vast constituency felt months ago when we spoke out against schools that were not neighborhood schools. And please consider the one school that's still in consideration that is a true neighborhood school and would be best for the vast majority of the students and families and taxpayers paying for and attending that school. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Dennis Bonderud.
Thank you very much. I'm Dennis Bonderud. I live at 9348 Forest Hill Lane, and I also own the property 2903 Johnson Road. Both of those are immediately across the street from Johnson Road. I also speak for Jay and Sandra Maynard, who are our neighbors and also are directly across the street from Johnson Road. We are very impacted by would be very impacted by the selection of Johnson Road Park. I just wanted to, first of all, thank all of you. I was shocked within an hour or two when I wrote emails that I received responses from every single one of you. So thank you very much, and thank you for your time on the board. This is the only site where you have to take something away from the neighborhood before you make the decision to put something there. We've been there 30 years. About 20 years ago, when Mayor Salvaggio developed the property at the corner of Johnson and Poplar, the motivation for those 50 zero-lot lines was senior living. I don't think there are kids in that neighborhood. This is not a neighborhood of kids looking for a school. It's just a bunch of old people, and we use Johnson Road Park every single day. I don't know what the impact to our water facility is. We just went through a very large expansion of water. Those are wells or tanks that are underground adjacent and on Johnson Road property. We're certainly going to need more water in the future, and it seems like the space there should be preserved for that growth. Anyway, so now you have heard from people on Johnson Road, around Old Plantation. That neighborhood is not a neighborhood of children looking for schools. Again, it's people who have been there for many, many years. people came into that 50 or so zero lot line community, and they use Johnson Road Park every single day. I ask that you don't take the park away from the neighborhood just to put a school there. All the other things that have already been presented, we feel the same way about Johnson Road traffic, but most importantly, the park that you would be taking before you did something positive there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody who came to speak tonight. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda. On the consent agenda tonight is the Teacher Leadership Network Grant contract, Budget Amendment 46 about safe schools, Budget Amendment 47, the Teacher Legislative Network Grant, Budget Amendment 48 regarding laptop and laptop maintenance, Budget Amendment 49, a firewall appliance for the school. Also on the consent agenda is school fees and activity costs, new policy, students in foster care, revision of policy, second reading, family medical leave absence, family homeless students, student equal access. In addition, first reading of board policies, parental and family involvement, grading, honor roll awards class ranking, testing programs, attendance, pregnancy and truancy, zero tolerance offenses revision, administering medicines to students revision, child abuse and neglect revision, guidance and school counselor revision, students accident report update. And many of these policies are being revised due to changes that have come down from our legislators. Do I have a motion to approve our consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion is passed. Next, under board action items, first is approval of grant of tenure to the recommended teachers.
Yes, just to clarify what we spoke about during the work session, in order for teachers to get certified now under the new Tennessee statutes, they have to work for the district 5 years, and in their last 2 years, their fourth and fifth year, they have to have scores of 4 or 5, and that includes their observations and also their test scores of their students. So it's a very rigorous process in order for teachers to receive tenure. The board has a list, but I'd like to read these individuals' names. This isn't to recognize them. We want to do that at the next board meeting, so we do want to have a celebration once the board has approved this list of teachers. But they would be Leslie Austin, who's a classroom teacher at Houston Middle School, Amy Bourne, who's a speech and language pathologist at Riverdale Elementary School, William Brock, who also worked with the TRAP team that was here tonight. He is a teacher at Houston High School, Leslie Brommer, a classroom teacher at Houston High School, Brianna Gould, who is a classroom teacher at Farmington Elementary, Rachel Heberling, a classroom teacher at Riverdale, Christine Hingle, who is a school psychologist for the district, Jessica Johnson, who is a classroom teacher at Riverdale Elementary, Lori Matthews, a classroom teacher at Dogwood Elementary, Karen Mills, a special education teacher at Farmington Elementary, and Ben Snyder, a classroom teacher at Houston High School. That is our list of recommended teachers for tenure.
Thank you, Superintendent Manuel. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve to grant tenure to the recommended teachers.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Next on the agenda is approval of family life curriculum.
We have standards and curriculum that are set by the state. The board actually chooses which curriculum they think aligns best with those standards. We went over the timeline during the work session about how it has been approved and how the information has been posted online, and also we had it available at the district office for parents to come review. And at this time, we are recommending approving that curriculum.
Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the GMSD Family Life Curriculum for 16-17 school year.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? None? Roll call?
Yes.
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 Motion is passed. Next on the agenda is the termination of our ILAs, or shared services. Superintendent, do you want to comment?
Yes. When we opened the district, it was beneficial for all of the municipalities to work together to actually share some services and staff in order to meet their needs. It has been a wonderful process. We could not have opened the doors except for that partnership with the other municipalities. But we have moved to the point now that this board feels, and has expressed in the past, that we can do things differently in Germantown and look for ways that we can serve these same programs within our district. So all the districts are passing a mutual agreement to terminate shared services, because any services that we want to share, we would then negotiate new contracts for those services. There are some that we'd still like to continue, but it is the end of those contracts for shared services. We will be bringing to the board contracts that we want to negotiate with the other districts, interlocal agreements for CTE, which is an individual that works with career and tech education. His name is Clark Knight. Ms. Gann, you may remember him. He's a very good individual that helps with all of our classes and helps us get funding for our CTE courses. We would also like to continue Bart Doby, who is serviced out of Arlington, and he works with our energy management system. He actually gets up every morning at 4 to 5 in the morning and looks at all of our heat and air units by computer and sees which units are offline, and he can diagnose the issues. And many times we have people there to work on them before the principals even walk in the door. And then the third one that we would like to continue, but we will bring before the board, is for transportation. We have one more year in our transportation agreement with Durham Services, and because of that, we would like to continue to work with Collierville for that. But first step for us is at this time to terminate all of these shared services and then bring those other contracts before the board.
Thank you, Superintendent. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the mutual agreement to terminate shared services on June 30th, 2017.
Second? Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
No.
All that hard work.
Yeah.
It was.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Motion is passed. Next on the agenda is a resolution for negotiation of land options.